Hello operators, I am Leonidas, this is Nuclearis, and I'm on version 2.0 patch 177. Our video today is by special request. I had a request from one of the viewers of my videos requesting to go through the control room console by console, dial by dial, switch by switch to talk about what each one does and how it impacts the operation. Disclaimer, I am not an expert. I don't know the ins and outs of all of this. 95% of my knowledge comes from personal experience, and then maybe not, 85% maybe. The other 15 comes from Discord, the official Discord of that Nuclearis has. I didn't create it, I didn't generate it, but it's there. It's a massive help. You can ask all sorts of questions. And there's one community helper in particular, GA. GA is one of my favorite people that I've never met. They're hilarious. I love the dry humor, but so knowledgeable. GA is a tester and knows the ins and outs of every little thing and way more knowledge about real nuclear reactors and incidents and physics and things. And you need a brain to pick. GA's brain is the brain to pick. So I'm going to go through with what I know, with what I understand, and just be aware that there's going to be some things where I don't know, and I don't know, maybe I'll make another video down the road when I have a better understanding of what everything does. But the things that I use and that I think you need to use for a successful operation of the plant, that's what we're going to go through today. So let me turn down that sound, the music in the background, and let's get started. So we're going to start over here with our panel. This is our drain system panel. Remember that a vent refers to something that is in a gas form, in this case steam. Drains are for liquids, fluids, such as, well, water. So if you needed for some reason to vent your turbine, that's what these would do, these vent valves. If you do an emergency shutdown, I believe these automatically open, and emergency shutdown, the button's right here. I guess I'll go through that a little later, but they automatically open. Some people forget that, and then when they try to start up and they can't because they haven't come back and closed these. So just make sure that you go back and do that. Gray, or the light gray, whatever color you want to call this, means it's installed but not active. These dark gray means not installed. They don't exist. And this is because we don't have our secondary or tertiary loop. Same with these ones. Green means they're essentially active. They got stuff in them. They're doing stuff. The condenser never really shuts off, and yet it does the core. So they're always green. This pump would indicate that you have a pump on that you're filling your condenser, like the condenser pump that we'll look at over at the Condenser Console. If you needed to drain the fluid out of your core, vent any pressure out of the core, this is where you would do that. And then obviously you can drain the steam generators here if they overfill. So the way that you operate these, I'll just pick one that I'm not actually using, so we'll go turbine in loop 1. Note that, again, the game's default loop is loop 3. That's the primary loop, and that's just for nostalgic reasons. So don't get those confused. Sometimes they refer to them as 1, 2, and 3, or A, B, C, but loop 3, loop C, Charlie, is the primary loop of the game. So to activate these, you just switch it to open. Yellow means it's in motion, or at least partially open. It'll show the same here. When it's fully open, it'll turn green, as it will up there. And we'll let it do that. Taking a long time. Maybe we'll speed up time. Or let the awkward silence linger. There it goes. Green. So I'm going to see green up here. That means fully open. Turning it off just means that the actuator is off. This is something that I see people do. I know this isn't what you're looking for in this video, but I want to mention it. Sometimes people will switch these to, say, open. My C3 valve, or a lot of times you see it on the C4 valve, like when people are installing other loops. But they'll switch the C4 valve to open. The C4 valve pertains to the MSCV. It is the MSCV, and I can actually demonstrate that to you. So it's already open. It was already green. But if I, and it's here, if I click this down 1 and make it 99, now it's considered partially open. Actually, let's do it, we'll do it a few, because I don't know if it rounds or not. And I come back and look, it's now yellow to indicate that it's partially open. So, just proving that's the C4 valve. If I go here and move this to open, it should, now it's green. If I come over and look, notice how what I've ordered is 89, but its current is 100. These will fight each other. What people tend to do sometimes is, as they're installing a loop, they will put these valves on open and leave them on open. It leaves the actuator trying to keep it open. And then they come over and they mess with their MSCV, and oh, it doesn't stay open. And every time I save and load, it keeps jumping open again. I don't know why, and I can't figure it out. It's because you've left it on open. Don't leave it on open. Also, don't leave it on close. When you're done getting whatever status out of it you want, or position out of it, turn it to off. It'll make your life so much easier. Again, that was more information you needed or requested, but hopefully that helps someone down the line. Okay, so that's this system, and that's what each of these do, is they pertain to different vent valves or drain valves. If you were to ask me a question, say on Discord, and say, hey, which valve do I open to vein or drain the such and such? I don't know that I would know off the top of my head. I would tell you, I don't know, go check the panel on the back, find the corresponding one and use it. Okay, I use this regularly, especially when doing startup ground, what I call like ground zero startups, where you have no equipment, you got to buy it all, install it, and open things, and pump things in, and fill tanks, and all that. So, anyway, moving on. This refers to each of our loops. The naming of this, some of these is a little confusing and unconventional, so just keep that in mind. The RCV valve, or the recirc valve, it doesn't actually stand for like recirculation. This is kind of designed to be an emergency valve. That one drains water out of the core vessel, out of the actual core itself, where the fuel and the control rods sit. So that valve will drain your core. Well, if it's a drain, why is it called a recirc valve? In an emergency situation, you could open this, kick on the pump, and it's like a backup coolant or cooling system, essentially, other than your primary. It's kind of an emergency cooling system. This tank, if I remember right, is this one right here, the primary circuit coolant tank. And so when you drain from here, it goes in. Actually, we can test this. This is 12,000. If I open up the RSCV for a minute, and sometimes you use this to advantage, right? Whoops, not close, because it's already closed. That's why it was green. But we're going to open it for a little bit. It takes time to open. It also takes time to close. So keep that in mind when I'm going to demonstrate this. So I'm going to leave this all the way open for a minute, or let it get to all the way open. Speed up time, avoid the awkward silence. There it is. Okay, and now off, it's going to stay open, but I want it to close. Watch how this number continues to drop even after I put it on close. It takes a while for that system, or the actuator, to actually shut it all the way off. So keep that in mind, that if you're aiming for, I want to get down to 2350 on this, because I'm going to inject chemicals. Awesome. If you wait till 2350 to turn it off, you're going to go below that. Okay, and you can play with it and see how much it is. So now, if I'm correct, this number should have gone up by a little bit, and it did. So all of that was in there that we drained off went into here. Notice that it's not an exact amount, because the units are different. This is liters, this is cubic meters. So just keep that in mind. So on here, it's called the primary circuit coolant tank. On here, it's called the condensate storage tank. But they're the same thing. If you needed to drain that one, or drain that one right there, oh, it worked, then you would use the CST purge valve. Purge means to drain something. In this case, I think it just drains out into the world. You can just drain radioactive water straight into the ocean, folks. Damage the environment to your heart's desire. And of course, from close, we change this to off. Not every valve. In fact, there's only a couple where They have an open and close here, and they have you can adjust them specifically on the consoles. But just for good measure, I always change them to off. Yeah. Anyhow, so keep that in mind. Recirc pump. This one is your feed water pump over here. And I believe on this diagram it demonstrates that. Yep. Core, primary circuit coolant tank, and feed water pump. If I turn, do I want to do this? Yeah, I'm going to do it quick. It doesn't matter if I break anything because I'm not actually playing this. So we turn it on. Goes green. Notice how it's green here to show on. Notice how it's green here to show on. And the pipes have gone green to show that there is water moving through it. So we'll shut that off. And what that's done is it's taken water from here. Our volume has dropped and it's pushed it into here. Same thing with the pumps. They take a while to spool down, and so even if they're off, they will continue to push water in. So keep that in mind. Don't just shut it off when you get to the level that you're looking for. So, man, I've been talking for a minute, and we're just getting started. So stick with me. Pressurizer, right? That's this pressurizer over here. Same exact one. It's tied in technically to loop 1. Loop 1 is going to be slightly less efficient than loop 2 and 3, or at least behave differently because of the pressurizer. And yeah, so I'm just going to leave it at that. All of these pertain to all those valves. RSC valve we talked about, and the purge valve if we needed to drain that tank. That's where you do it. Why do they have it labeled differently? You got to remember that this game started on a very small scale. It actually started out as like a first-person shooter horror game, and this is where we're at. And so things have just kind of legacy, tradition, nostalgia just carried over, and they haven't updated or changed them. And there's so many things. It's still kind of a beta-ish version in a lot of senses. So they haven't finished everything, but the big tuning is happening more rapidly than the fine tuning. So eventually it probably will, but just go with it. Okay, so your pumps here, again, C1 pump, C2 pump, D1 pump, those are actual things, and they have switches. This right here is your primary coolant pump. If you ever need to know, just flip it on. Flip it on, give it a $5.
The reactor core coolant has started to circulate.
And look, it turned green. Sweet. Okay, so that's a good way to test if you ever are curious about pumps and things.
The reactor core coolant
So,
has started
moving. I'm not going to spend too much more time on this panel. I'll let you guys play with it. Containment building. Right click is your friend. This just kind of shows the shielding around the core and the building. Sorry, I had a cough attack. Hopefully you didn't hear any of that. And any radiation leaks. I've never had this happen, but the floodgates. Those are. I'll demonstrate those. Why not? Okay, we'll unload this. Okay, we'll do its thing for a little while. I'll demonstrate those later, unless I forget. Your fuel console. This is for loading and unloading fuel. The old reactor had just kind of one stage. It was in or it was out. Now there's hatches, and there's kind of two stages. In the core, there's an upper and a lower. And right now the fuel, by being red, is in that upper level. It's isolated. It's isolated away from the control rods, away from the water, the main core reactor, which I know kind of sounds weird, but it's just how the game has it. So the way, if you think of it as kind of like an upstairs and downstairs, right now the fuel is upstairs in the core, and this is where you can open the hatch and get to it. If it was downstairs, meaning it's unisolated or it's loaded, you can't. It won't let you open the hatch, and you can't get it to load it in or out. So that's what this is used for. And then obviously the hatch is to open and close the different hatches. You can select which bay you want to manipulate by doing that, and then it changes. If you want to do all of them, flip the corresponding switch, but they don't all light up. Just keep that in mind. But this does go blank. So it will tell you if your particular bay is safe to open or not. So if we go back to 1, These do light up. It's not safe to open right now, and if I tried to, there it goes, and I go open hatch, it should tell me no. See? And the reason is, oh, does it tell me right here? Water is present. Yep, so water is present. If it were, do I want to do this? Is my water too low? Nope, we're good. If I wanted to load it, I can. No, it won't. It'll give me an alarm.
Mode.
Sorry. Yeah.
New operating mode established. Nominal mode.
Just do the animation. It's now down in the water, and actually, you can see, whoops, the water draining on the cameras. It's not supposed to act this way because you're draining the external core, the water around it, not the water inside of it, but you can actually see it. So I'm going to unisolate it before I cause an issue. Or I'm sorry, I am going to isolate it before I cause an issue, because water not being surrounded in the core is less than ideal. So as the water level drops, you can actually see it on the screen. I think that's the top of the water right there. Let's go triple speed, see if we can get it to a little faster. Maybe not. Oh, have they fixed that visual bug? Nope, it's just taking a while. Hopefully I'll catch it as it's going down. I'll go back to normal speed. So it has a little safety. Once the hatches are uncovered, are they uncovered yet? Yep, they are. It'll let me open it. So you don't have to drain the water out all the way. You just have to... What? Okay, I guess it's got to be a little farther. Come on. Oh, what? Because I'm in the wrong mode. There we go.
New operating mode
Yeah.
established.
There we go.
Shutdown.
Now it says safe to open. So that's when I can open it. Ta-da! So I had to be in the correct mode. Cool. Oh, and then it gives me an alarm. Oh no! The reason it does this is because there's water present and it doesn't like it. Can I see the water level dropping yet? No, I don't think so. It'll keep going. Maybe. Yep, I can still see it pulsing. But that's why it gives you that alarm, is if you try and do stuff with the hatch open or closed and there's water present. I have a video where I show you how to reset that if you need to. Though I'm not seeing the animate. They may have fixed that. The visual bug. I wonder if they fixed the calculations. Because it used to be that, and you can just barely see the glow from the fuel right there. I'm going way off topic. Sorry, everybody. But as you lowered the external water, it would lower inside the core, and it actually had that effect. So if you had all the water drained out of the external core, yep, you can see the water level coming down, and you load fuel, it spikes. It shouldn't, because it has its own internal water level, but for some reason they're showing disconnected, and they're not supposed to. So we'll come back to that in a minute, so you can see it. But anyhow, operation mode shutdown lets you do certain things with loading, unloading. It also changes certain alarms, nominal mode and maximum. The maximum, you don't really need much, but that was something that would adjust some of the AO automated settings, because he has stuff that you can do, that you can purchase. Not all of them are enabled from back in the day. Oh, water's still coming down. It also, but it changes some of the thresholds also, so that the alarms go off later than they would otherwise. Yeah, moving right along. Pressurizer. The thermostat, obviously let it get down to 150, and then it kicks it on and jumps it up a little ways. Low, medium, and high pertains to the heating power of the thermostat, and I do low once for normal operations, or once it's at pressure. So, sorry, let me turn my phone off. So that, I don't know, in my head it makes less wear and tear. If your thermostat's on, it's going to wear more. If your heater's on, it's going to wear more. You don't have to use the thermostat. You can just turn it on. Can I see the water level? Yep, there it is. See the water level? So, and if I were to load the fuel right now, I'm guessing it's going to, it might jump up give me an issue. If I break the game, I will come back and redo all this if I make the thing explode. But you know what? Let's make things explode. Let's go nominal mode.
New operating mode established.
Load fuel. Watch what
Nominal
happens.
mode.
Are we gonna jump? Whoa. Nope. We're not. Okay, never mind. So they fixed that part of it. But right now I have fuel loaded with no water. So if I were to pull the rods right now, I'd get a whole bunch of alarms. Ah, there's no flowing circulation pump. Anyway, coolant. So there you go. I can unload it when I'm in nominal mode. I just can't open the gates. This is considered like the safe mode. Anyway, moving right along. Oh, I guess I skipped over these guys. Thermal efficiency, don't worry about it. It's a function of heat and power output, and you don't need these. Again, I'm not gonna go into detail over the things you don't really need day to day. These are just gee whiz things to look at. And, oh, that's neat. Don't run your reactor based off of these. Same with these pressurizer levels. This should always be kind of automatic. It hits 60 and stops. It's a percentage. You can dump it and fill it more through vent valves, but it's just going to mess it up. The best way to keep your... I should turn this off because we're not using it and it's making noise. The best thing you can do for the health of your pressurizer, don't overfill this. Don't let it get above 24, well, probably 2480 is the max. I like to keep it around 2425. And just remember that as you add boron, this will go up because that boron comes in a liquid form. See other videos about startups for that. Pressure. The pressure here in your pressurizer generates pressure in the vessel. The whole purpose behind this is to raise the boiling temperature of water. If you're trying to cool off a 300 degree fuel block and your water is boiling at 100 and boils at 100 degrees, you're not going to get much cooling done. It's just going to flash boil away and not do anybody any good. I paused that. Hopefully you didn't hear me coughing again. So that pressurizer creates pressure in the system and keeps water from boiling until a much higher temperature. Think pressure cooker in your house. Same concept. The pressure tank or relief tank pressure, if you vent it, I believe it goes in there. This is a measure of the heating power based on this switch. The temperature, this will always just kind of keep it at 350 to generate the pressure. You have the vent valve to vent the pressure in the pressurizer, and you can open this. I believe this water comes from your primary coolant circuit and will help cool off this pressurizer faster. You don't normally need to do that. The only maintenance that you ever have to do on the pressurizer, you can do with just the heater off. And you can do that maintenance while it's running. You just kind of wait till this gets up to like 170-ish. Now under patch 177, it cools off a lot faster on its own, so you have to kind of be quick. But you just pulse it up, get it up to say 170, shut it off, tell AO to go do his thing, and then as soon as he's done, kick it back on. Don't forget, I have forgotten, you will get steam bubbles. It's supposed to operate above 150. I think when I forgot it, I started getting the steam detected, and then a few seconds later, high steam level in the pressurizer because I let it get down to into the 60s. My vessel pressure got into the 60s, and to solve it, I just flipped the heater back on, and then it went away almost instantly. So there you go. Internal supply, external power. This comes from the city. It will cause you to have to pay a bill every day of a whopping 10 prestige points or $10. It is it's I think cheaper than fuel. When you run at least the generator that they give you, it's 12% of your fuel per hour. And I guess I actually haven't done the math, but if you have a second generator installed, it'll show up here. These are your fuel levels. This shows, this is related to the batteries, and this is how much you are consuming, how much capacity you have of your batteries left. And then I think this includes the generators. This is just showing the charge of your batteries, and it'll show the percentage that you're dropping per hour when using them. So the batteries can't power everything. So did I turn this off? I did. So I'll demonstrate this by going to use. Alright, so I'm on my batteries. I should be here in a second. If I turn off this, it's going to go dark probably in a second. And it should kick back on. So our batteries are now being used. Yeah, no electrical voltage, right. So now we're running off of our batteries, and it's showing that we're only draining 1% per hour. It's not really strong enough to run lots of the stuff that we need, like pumps and stuff. So this is just kind of a temporary until you can run over and get your generator started. That's why I leave this in automatic mode when I'm running. If there's a power outage like we just witnessed, it will automatically start up. But please note there is a difference in the different types of generator sets you can purchase. This is the one that we have. It takes 8 minutes to power up. You can upgrade that here. And power increase, and drop that, whoops, not power increase, where's it at, time reduction, by 10%. It's 18,000 prestige points, and you can only start doing it at level 3, but you can drop that by 10% and do that 5 times. I don't know if it stacks, or if it's just, drops it down to 50%, or, beyond 50% because they stack. I'm not sure exactly. This is also where you would come to sell and discard those things, but anyway. My third purchase usually. First one is another transformer, second one is another resistor bank with resistors, and my third one is one of these. I have the DLC. You get this guy. It starts up in a minute and provides way more power. Right now the most I can get out is 240. This provides 720 and startups in 1 minute. And yes, you can upgrade this one and drop that 10% 5 times, and it's very cheap. I think it's 2,000 prestige points or 2,500 maybe. Very, very cheap to upgrade it. So this one comes in almost instantly. It'll start up. So I consider it a good investment. And then I leave that on automatic. So we will kick this back on. We'll switch this back to, well, you can put on charge, and it'll charge, but automatic. Makes it so that it'll charge them back up to 100%, and then just use them when they're needed. So I don't know why that's still showing. It shouldn't. That's what our value is. Interesting. I don't know why that's showing that, but there you go. This demonstrates how much power we're consuming. This number will go up as we do things. Why? Oh, you know what? I know why. I think I know why. Because it's saying that we're not getting enough off of the external. Can I get this to kick off? Maybe not. Interesting. That might be a bug. That's new. Okay. Screens. Harder to make sense of if we're not running. This just shows the percent compliance that you've made over the last 24 hours, and it's a rolling average. It doesn't reset of the day. So when you get to after the 23rd hour, right, the new day starts at 0 hour or midnight. Then the numbers you're seeing are for the previous day. So it's kind of it just updates one column at a time. Same for time generating energy. It just tells you how long you've been generating energy. Sometimes there's an objective where you need to continuously generate power over a certain time, and that's what this screen shows you. This one is just how much energy you've produced. So this is how much you've produced, how long you've been doing it, and your percentage compliance. This is a nice handy screen that has no use right now based on where it's at. This used to be right here, so you could sit in this corner and just glance up, and you could see what your overall torque was on your turbines, what your reactor temperature is. It was very handy. Well, they added this alarm panel, and so they stuck it down here. But if I'm going to come over here to look at my rod percentage and my core temperature, I can just look here. So hopefully one day they'll move it again, but right now where it is, it's pretty useless. Weather, if you have weather impacts on under difficulty, oh no, I guess it's when you first start up, I think. Oh no, it's right here under options. Sorry. Uh, Weather consequences. Unlike cloudy days, your demand will be higher than normal because they can't use solar. Or windy days, right? If the wind is low, they can't use their wind as much. So that does have can have an impact. I think you can also get weather catastrophes. Um, I believe I haven't experienced one, but I do believe it exists. Reactor core, vessel pressure we've talked about. Internal temperature. This is just a gauge version of this. These numbers are arbitrary. This one's not. This one will sit at 160 basically, but this your core does not love being at 412. That's pretty high. Optimal, actually, I think it tells you in the range. Yep, operating range 306 to 360. That's more so for the previous reactor. That doesn't necessarily hold true now in patch 177. Um, Cooler tends to be better. I used to run at 360 all the time, but now that's considered high and it'll wear your core faster. I shoot for 300. 280 to 320 with 300 being kind of my sweet spot, is where I like to be. I could go down as far as 280 probably, and that also helps. The higher the temperature here, the more energy you produce. So for early days, low demand, better to have that lower. Core integrity, obviously, that's if there's damage. As you get core integrity loss, you will get leakage, radiation leakage, water leakage, things like that. As your control rods lose integrity, they lose absorption rates. This obviously relates to your chemicals. And reactivity is kind of what it's doing, and this is how much of it there is. So more on that another day. Reactivity, so many people rely on this to run their reactor. Please don't. Back in the early days of the game, before they had all these other gauges and whiz bang gizmos and things, this was more relied upon. Now it's basically a temperature gauge. So people say, "Oh, my activity's down, or it's low, it's subcritical, it's supercritical." Don't use this. Don't look at it. I have been playing this game. I think I've only been playing this game a month, and I've already got a couple hundred hours in it. I've never once looked at my reactivity gauge, and I've done just fine. And checking with the testers, I asked them specifically, is this supposed to be used? And they said no. At this point, it's not. The developers don't use it. The testers don't use it. It's just there. There's several things like that, including thermal efficiency, right? There's some things that are in here just because they're cool, they're neat, they're not designed to be relied upon for the operation, to judge the operation of your reactor. You can use it in relation to chemicals, but anyway, just please don't chase the colors on your reactivity. Control rod temperature, if they get too hot, they will become unresponsive. They can get stuck. They do not operate as efficiently. Efficiency factor, another one that's just there for gee whiz. But this is good because, again, if your rods are pretty far out, that's going to affect this. So it's not a perfect it's not a perfect measurement. So just keep that in mind. This is each bank that you have. There's no real color for fuel, but this just shows this. If this is dark, it means there's no fuel inserted. If this is red, it means your controller motor is damaged. It could be yellow also. This is also the status of each control rod. This is the position of each control rod. Whatever the control rods are at will show up here. Their individual settings, because if you have more than one installed, this rod height is an average of the height of all the control rods together. So if you have 3 installed, but you're only trying to use 1, you only have switch 1 on, or you have 4 installed, right? And you're only trying to use bank 1 and switch 1. The rod height readout here will be an average of all of them. So if you have 3 at 0 and 1 at 100, this is going to show 25 because that's the average. If you put in 50 and only have this on, it will move to 50, but just the rod height readout is going to be weird and it can throw you off. So keep that in mind. Hold is if your rods are in motion and you're like, oh nope, I need to stop, this is not working, you just hit hold and they'll stop. But other buttons, you kind of walk over and you click and they do the thing, right? Or you can scram. I'm gonna get probably an alarm here. Yeah, I know. Then operating sensors. This one you don't. You click on it and it opens up the keypad. Well, you have to just click it again. Okay, so just keep in mind that hold, you have to almost do a double click on it. Engine power. Control banks. If you flip this on, the red one, it flips all of them on. Engine power. The old reactor default was 125 watts, which is 100%. Now 70 watts goes to 25, and I actually don't know what 100 would be. If we go to 125, I don't think it's 75 anymore, or 75% anymore. Yeah, so it takes way more energy to get them to move faster. I don't know what it would be. 91. There you go. Probably uses more energy if you're doing it, but you can play around with that if you want them to move faster. Why they did that, I don't have a good answer for you, but I usually just leave them on the default and it works fine. Anything else here to talk about? These, okay, if you get a temperature alarm here, it's going to show up on this alarm panel over here. If your core gets too hot, it's going to show up here, high temp, critical temp, low integrity, because that's kind of more relating to fuel, whereas this is going to relate to more the actual like core and stuff going on inside of it itself. So keep that in mind. That if this is high and you're like, oh, where's the alarm? Where's the alarm? Where's the, I don't see it. It's over there. This pertains to control rods. I think that's pretty much everything over. Operative level pertains to reactivity. So that's new. These lights, when it's a critical mass, goes green. Reactive, I think it goes green. Secure core, you can't do certain things until the core is secured, like maintenance. And this relates to the status of where your fuel is, your hatches, and your temperature. 55 degrees is critical. So if you're going to extract fuel, it needs to be below 55 degrees. I recommend below 50. And whatever temperature you take it out at, this is going to drop down to room temperature of about 18. And as soon as you insert it, it's going to jump. Yes, you can pull it out, I think, below 300. It'll allow you to. When you put it back in, it'll instantly go to 300. Keep that in mind. And then just some valve status and things like that. These red things are the alarms. If there's like a danger alarm, they light up red. I think that's about it over. Obviously, the dashes mean there's not one installed. Also, the fact that it's dark. Coolant system. These are alarms for coolant system. The core inlet temperature. What this refers to is on our map, the degree of the water coming at the time it comes into the reactor. If that's too high, think of it as trying to cool off. Let's say you've got a rock that's somehow heated, and you're trying to cool it off by running it under the water in your faucet. Well, it's like trying to cool it off with hot water. It's not going to do very much. So this is just a measure of that. And obviously the hotter your core is, the hotter this is going to be. Moderation level, don't worry about it. You don't need to, that's just the G-Whiz. Don't operate off of that. Same as overall. Oh my goodness, people chase this one, the green, the 100% on this one so much, and they lose their minds. It was taking into account some stuff with the condenser and steam generators, so people were extra freaking out and they were overfilling everything to the absolute brim, maxing everything out, and they're like, oh, my system doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because you guys are chasing goofy colors on goofy gauges for no reason. So this is just neat. That's it. It's just neat to look at. Pressurizer, this should never move. If it does, then you've got issues going on over there. This one does matter. This is the amount of coolant you have inside of your core and coolant system. So keep that in mind. It'll also, as you increase boron or boric acid, it will increase your core vessel level. That's about all you need from there. Okay, the outer vessel. This is the pool, the giant swimming pool. It doesn't do anything other than contain it and prevent radiation leakage for the most part. This is the level of the water inside. This is the temperature of it. If you melt your core, yes, the temperature will go up. You don't really have a way to cool it down other than cooling down the core. None of these pumps. All these pipes go to the core itself, not to the external core, the external pool. This is the coolant tank, which I believe is that guy. Doesn't have a label. This one has a plaque on it that'll tell you what the name is right there. And I think that one is for the coolant tank here. So as this decreases, it gets pumped into here, and then when you turn this on to load, it just pumps back. We'll see this start going up. This is a percentage, by the way, which you can tell. And this will go down. So yes, this is magic. When you first start, I think it's the needles right here in liters, and then you magically drain this, and this just goes to 80 and pegs. It's magic. Just go with it. Obviously, this is a lot more water than would fit inside here. It's magic. Okay, go with it. High pressure and required maintenance. I believe those pertain to the primary coolant pump system, or the system, not necessarily the pump itself. So I guess you can keep an eye on that. If those are lit up, you probably have other things lit up. Primary circuit coolant tank is, I believe, this guy right here, the one on the right. That is the water stored that goes into the core itself. If you drain this, it'll show up here. If you need more in here, it will come from here. Okay? And why am I doing this? Oh, I was just showing it to show that guy going up. So we'll turn that off. He's the loudest pump I think there is. These guys are also really loud. When they move, they click. Yeah, so these two are connected, and these two are connected. This feeds into both of them. And if you need more water in your coolant tank, because for some reason you're going to dump it back in there, then it comes from here. This also feeds into here. Okay? This is outside. When you fill this, it just comes from the world, the city, imaginary place. These pumps pertain to doing different things in here. This is your freight pump panel. Obviously, we saw that this fills the external core right here. It takes water in between these two, load and remove. It's the only one, if I remember right, that has that's like a reversible pump. All the others are just one way. Condenser pump, shocker, sends water to the condenser. The water just comes from nowhere, from magic land. Is it this one? Yep, it's right here. And it doesn't. I'll demonstrate that. Turn it green. Run over here. Where do I go? Right here. Green. It's sending water in. And my condenser volume rises. Eventually. These pipes are really long, and that is a thing. Length is factored into this game. So sometimes you'll turn a pump on and be like, oh, it's not rising. Well, because the water has to take time to travel through the pipes. That's how realistic the developers have made this game, which I think is cool. Yeah, the feed water pump relates to the, we already did that one, right? Relates to the core. It's the guy, well, it's this one, and it's also this one on the diagram. Don't let the name confuse you. They're green because you can run them any time, more or less. These guys are a little different. external primary pump, well, let's go to our diagram. Our external coolant reservoir. External coolant reservoir, right? Remember I said this guy feeds these two? Let's go back. This guy feeds these two, which were those two that we just looked at. The external pump fills this up. The internal pump takes water from here and pushes it to those two. You must have these valves open. I don't want to spoil the fun, but these are manual valves, hence the M, and you got to find where they are and open them to make it happen. It reminds you of this here. It also reminds you at the console. I'll show you. But you have to. You can have both of them open, and they'll still fill. If you are pumping in and filling at the same time, like both of these are running, this just the volume in here just stays the same. The volume coming in matches the volume going out second for second, which is kind of handy. Okay, sorry about that. You guys didn't notice anything, but I was gone for a few minutes. Getting a little wheezy. I had to get my inhaler. It ain't easy being wheezy, folks. Okay, where was I? Yes, you can fill this at the same rate that you draw from it. That is not the case for these two. If you are filling them and drawing from them, these two are more powerful. You will run these out. If you run these down and still run your pump, you will damage your pumps. Please keep that in mind. That becomes significant if you start a new game where the plant is not ready and you have to purchase all the stuff to get it up and running. So but you can fill both of these at the same time. Cleaning water tank deals with chemicals. That is, well, yeah. If you want to see all that, go see my chemical two-part thing in the chemical room, part one. I think I go through that. So anyway, if you try and run these, so I can turn on the external, it'll work just fine. It'll give me green light, and I'll see this eventually start filling up. It won't for a minute because it takes time for the water to go through the pipes. This one you will damage if the valves are not open, and it tells you this right here. One of these three need to be green to not damage this guy. Are you going up yet? Yep, there you go. So there you go. Let's see. I think that's all there. We've gone through each of these now. Obviously, you have your different pumps that you can turn on. When they're on, this will run all three of the loops at the same time, or you can do one at a time individually. Sometimes the ordered is an average. If you have two in here, one installed, but you're only using one and not the other, this will average the two sometimes. Or even if you're using two but not three, or don't have a third one installed yet. Anyway, so just know sometimes the numbers can be a little goofy. These are preset percentages, because this is a percentage of speed. 25, 50, 100. And this guy, if you've damaged your pump, will light up red. The other way you'll notice is it'll say 5 and it'll be 4, or you'll have it ordered at 65 and it's doing 64. The more damage, the bigger the difference between these numbers. You'll see it here too, and the number will usually also be red, especially if it's just one that's damaged. If they're all damaged, I think it goes red. I think that's it there.
Reactor core coolant has stopped circulating.
White, generally kind of everywhere. White means installed, green means running. So it should go. Yellow means it's
the reactor core coolant has
spooling
started
up.
to circulate.
Once it hits 5, that'll go green. If it's dry, right, because you haven't opened a valve or something, and you're doing damage to it, it'll show dry here, I think in yellow. Same with overload. That means that whatever you're trying to do, it's too full, and so you can't cram any more water in there, and it's also causing it damage. Too much instead of too little. They're kind of two different. They're opposite warnings, and that's true for a lot of
has
it.
stopped circulating.
This one we went through. This barrier pertains to chemicals. If you want to see that, again, go look at my chemical video, so I don't spend time here doing it. Energy generation. Don't worry about this one. Don't worry about this one. You won't. I don't use them. There is a little bit more to all of this. Connected means connected to the city, I believe. Status just means like if it's on, if it's running, and then repair required, this can go yellow or red, and that's for integrity loss. The pressure is the pressure that comes from the steam in the steam generator. If it's too high, you will damage it. Temperature, obviously, steam creates heat. And the torque. This is the guy that you need above 2.5 or it could stall. And you can also over torque it, over rev it. AO will yell at you if you do that. This just reminds you which ones are installed. Valves mean that these are, well, right now they're not there. Red means closed. So if I open this guy, he'll open. He'll show red. They're open. And white means closed. Yeah, close in a minute. And that's the MSCV. Obviously, it's at 100, right? If I order this back down to 0, eventually that'll go white. Turbine vent valves. One is open. Oh, right, because I opened it back here. So I'd say, why is that open? And it'll show you there. So, that's the status. Oh, I forgot the big red buttons under the glass. Turbine trip. If for some reason there's an emergency, you need to shut off the turbine right away. I believe you hit this. It goes bypass to 100. It opens the valve, and I think opens the circuit breaker also. It's been a minute since I've tested it. And it's kind of a two-part process. You click once to open the glass, and again to press the button. Same with this guy. This will only work if you are... Oh, it didn't do it. If you are reactive. If there's no reactivity, it'll say the core is not reactive. There's nothing to emergency stop. Keep that in mind. But it will... This trips the turbine, scrams the rods, requests an emergency shutdown from the city. It does a few things all at once for you. And then it lets you get things under control. So that's what those guys are for. Synchroscope I won't go through. This field excitation you would only, it pertains to the voltage. You only use if your turbine is damaged and you need to manually move that up. Otherwise, don't touch. You will fix it until it's broken. In other words, you'll break it. Resistor banks. White means installed, gray means not installed, and green means on. These people ask, man, why am I getting wear on resistors 2, 3, and 4? Resistor banks 2, 3, and 4. I don't even, they're installed. I'm not using them. It's because of this guy. If he is on, these are taking wear, whether they're activated or not, whether they have resistors installed or not. They will take wear, and it pertains to this guy. But you cannot have this off and this on. See how it doesn't work? It's all or nothing. So don't install more resistors until you need them. This is the second purchase I make because for me, the way that I operate, the 3 things that get the wear the fastest, the earliest, and I have to maintain them most often. Number 1 is the transformer. Number 2 is the resistor bank. And number 3 is the... Actually, that's not true. I think he's number 1. Pressurizer, transformer, resistor bank. Those are the 3. And it's just... That's why I buy... It's just a thing you deal with. That's why the first thing I buy is another transformer, because then I can turn number 2 on, 1 off, and maintain it. And then I kind of flip back and forth between the two, so I don't have to shut down the whole plant. Same with these guys. And I let AO do their thing. And then, of course, the third thing is the backup generator. Though I never need it, I just feel better having it. By the way, generators come partially filled. You have to get fuel cans and manually fill them yourself. Or I guess you can pay AO to do it. Looking over here, this is how much each generator is generating. This is how much the city is requesting, the demand from the city. RPMs Voltage you don't ever have to worry about unless there's damage. Hertz you don't ever worry about. Amps you don't ever worry about. You can look at my other videos, but I use this to watch trends as it's going up and down, because when it's in the megawatts, it's hard to tell whether you're slowly increasing or decreasing, and I use amps for that, just as a measure. The sync light refers to when it has to do with the synchroscope. Again, watch my synchroscope video, but once you are here and it goes green and green, this guy goes green to show you're in sync. It can happen to where you stop the dot at the top, but you're not in sync. It's just kind of a rounding error. You just have to move it one dot, move it back, and then it'll go. Circuit breaker status is whether it's open or closed. If you are going to spin up your turbine, make sure it's open. Open means not connected, right? You got to think electric. What are those things called? Electric circuits, right? If they're open, they're not touching. If they're closed, they're touching. So you don't want it touching the city, right? So leave it open. Only once it's synced do you close it. If you're going to start shutting down, the first step is to open it and then wind it down. If you leave it closed, if you leave it touching the city as the RPMs are going up or down. I don't mean just changing the output. I mean the actual RPMs, like it's spinning down, it's dying, or you're shutting it down or whatever you want to call it for maintenance or whatnot. Then open it. That's your first step. So otherwise, just changing your production, your output up and down, that's fine. Obviously, this switches between if you had different loops installed, which one you're looking at. These numbers won't light up until they're installed. Resistor banks we went over. This guy is a manual system. If you want to add a level of complexity, you get to pick how much is effectively derived from the city. So it's another layer of difficulty. Let's leave it at that. Even the developers and testers and stuff usually leave that on. So compensator doesn't do much. It helps to level out the output from the turbines. You wouldn't even need it until later on in the game when you're having higher outputs, but it is there. It's just almost more hassle than it's worth. This is how much your resistor bank can withhold. If this number goes above this, you are causing damage. It will burn out and eventually explode. Same for the transformer. Your transformer has to change the type of electricity that's coming from the generators out into the city. So that's what it does, and this is its maximum capacity. Under the old reactor, prior to 2.0, you could go over this without a penalty or without any effect, and it would just wear out faster. I don't believe that's the case anymore. So as you add, you can upgrade those. You can buy new fancier ones, right? There's different classes that you can purchase. I'm not going to go too much into this, but see, and they have Class C, Class B. We have Class A's installed. It shows you what their capacity is and things like that. So just keep that in mind. You can have more than one on at a time, and they are additive. Note that so resistor banks have different classes. Okay, the capacity is 90,000, which is the one we have. There's also different classes of resistors themselves, right? So if you think, oh, I'm going to buy 4 of these guys for 188,000 kilowatts and stick them in my Class A resistor bank, it won't. It's going to top out. The limiting factor is the class of resistor bank, not the resistor itself. Putting this, a Class C, inside of a Class A resistor bank will do nothing for you. Please keep that in mind. So don't try and cheat the system. You're just going to waste money. This shows how much it can absorb. This tells you how much it's automatically diverting away, and then this is how much this is the setting. This is what's actually going on. If this is 0, it means you're not meeting the demand, or you're right at it. And this number, let me go back. this shows you what each one's producing. This is all of them added together. So one might ask, okay, so why do I have this number and this here? Wouldn't these be the same? No, because of this. When you are generating power, you are using some of your own power that you are generating. So this comes from the total output minus what's being used goes to is what's being given off to the city. It's very little. I don't even know if I've ever gotten over 200 kilowatts, but it's a very small amount. So don't worry about that. And then again, voltage is what we're outputting. It's I don't think it adds. I think it's the average. Maybe it is. Anyway, of these voltages here. Disconnected from the power grid. Well, obviously, because we're not doing anything. And demand exceeded. Yellow is okay-ish. Red is not okay-ish. The city gives you a 10%. They'll absorb 10% overage over the demand. Anything more than that, they won't. If it's not going to resistor banks, it's sticking around in your turbines and causing damage. Not even wear and tear. It's causing actual integrity loss. Integrity is basically the health of your whatever component or machinery it is. So, and then these obviously are a number of alarms associated with this guy. Steam generator. Take a break if you need one. We're at I think we're over an hour, just over an hour. Anyway, these three. So this is the temperature inside your steam generator. The in and the out is easier to demonstrate over here. The in is the temperature of the water coming from the core as it enters the steam generator. Well, you'd say, well, I already have that. It's right here. It's this guy, right? The outbound, the out. So why do I have another one over there? Well, and then you're gonna look and go, wait a minute, they aren't the same. Why aren't they the same? Well, the game is so realistic that if it comes out at say 300 degrees, as it travels over time, over length, the pipe conducts heat, and then by the time it gets here, you've had some heat loss. So the game is realistic enough to calculate the difference of when it exits and makes its way into that steam generator. And not all lengths are created equal. And so that's what that is. The out is the temperature going out here. And it will correlate similar to the inlet temperature, because this is the inlet of the reactor, and that's the outlet from the steam generator. So this is just a measure. When you subtract these two, that's how many units of heat you're taking away. It's going to be small. It'll probably be less than 10. If you want to figure out how to get more than that, you can. I've never gotten it more than 16, and I don't know if it's possible to at this point in development. Obviously, pressure inside the steam generator. Don't let it go below, I'm just going to say 35 is a general rule. Otherwise, it'll not produce enough torque, and your turbine will stall. Yeah. This is a relief valve. If you click this open, any pressure inside here will be vented into the room, and you can see it shooting out. And this is kind of an emergency measure for the most part. Obviously, your turbine speed works the same as your secondary pump speed works the same as your secondary works the same as your primary with the 25, 50, 100. And this is all of them at the same time, or you can do each one individually. This is the water level inside your steam generator. Remember that it's like a giant pot of water on a stove with the lid strapped on, more like welded on, and this is the water level inside of that. As you create steam, this will drop. Again, don't chase the numbers. Don't be like, oh, it's in the red. Oh, no. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. See more videos for that. Other videos. This shows you the balance. If you read it, it kind of tells you when it's in the water section, it means you have more water coming back from the condenser than steam that you're outputting to the turbine. The idea is to get this at a level of 50, which is dead equal. This measures how much water you're losing to steam, how much steam you're generating essentially, how much water is coming in from the condenser, cold water coming in, and this is how much steam you're releasing from your steam generator to your turbine. So in essence, you want these to be the same. The water coming in matches the water being boiled off, matches the amount of steam being sent to the turbine. And that's in equilibrium. That's that thermal balance it's looking for. When these three numbers match, this will be at 50. And they tend to bounce. Just be aware of that. Again, green is installed. Condenser. This is your condenser level. It is affected by the condenser pump. Also, if you install loops, they get their fill level from here. The way to get that to work, in fact, I think it will work if I do it now, is if I click on number 3 and put it on. I'm just going to go slow because it's going to take a while, but we're going to leave it. I might overload it, actually. We'll find out. We're going to let that go for a while because it takes a long time. Pressure inside the condenser is not necessarily a good thing. If you want pressure inside of it, you open the steam admission valve and it allows steam into the condenser. You want this at 0 and this at 100, because what that does, that vacuum, well, let me just show you. So you have from this loop, right, water coming in, it's made into steam, and then the steam gets shot out to through the turbine, and then has to come back here. Well, yeah, just the force of pushing it is kind of enough to get it to keep going, but if you have a vacuum in here, it actually pulls the steam. So that's more of what's happening, is it's pulling the steam, which one helps it get through the turbine quicker, but also just helps it get into the condenser to be turned back into water so it can be pumped back. So that vacuum is fairly important to have on and going. Are we raising yet? Nope, still haven't gotten there. But we're not overloaded. If you'll notice, this is dropping. So the reason this is dropping is because we are pulling water from our condenser into here, but it has to fill all those pipes first. That's why it hasn't arrived yet. If I let this go for too long, eventually it'll overload because it's too full. If you have any pressure in here and your MSCV is closed, you're going to overload the pump because it cannot pull it all out. Oh, look, see, now it's arriving at 44 liters a minute. So every little bit it's going to jump by 44. So anyway, there you go. So that's how you fill your steam condenser, or I'm sorry, your steam generator, and it comes from the condenser. Obviously, if this gets too low because you've been filling these guys up, you've been venting, you've been draining, whatever, that's when you'd use the condenser pump. Note that whenever you turn that on, your temperature inside your condenser is going to plummet because you're dumping cold water inside there. Room temperature, 20-degree water. Yes, it does have an effect. It is that realistic. So you want this guy at 0 generally. You want this guy at 100. This is controlled through our vacuum pump here. And you want this to get as close to 100 without going over. Higher means less work over here, turning it into steam. Because when the water comes back, if it's 99 degrees, well, you only need it to heat it 1 more degree and then it's steam. It raises the efficiency because you're kind of reusing the heat that's in it. Oh yeah, notice the spool down. Is it still going up? Nope, even though it says 10. I don't know why it is. But this will... Anyway, so just keep that in mind, that you do want this close to 100, not above. I like to shoot for 75 to 85. But don't let it go over. And guys, I think that's it. Well, chemical treatment, I'll let you look at the chemical the chemical video for more in depth on this. I'm going to do it real brief. Sodium hydroxide is used for cleaning. Water cleans out the sodium hydroxide. This is the boron level of how much is available to pump into the core. This is the actual pump, how much you're putting in. It'll raise, your concentration will raise by this number every minute, and the max is 50, and it just shows what, if you've got 50 in here and 50 here, it just shows what the current is. The concentration inside, anything above 3,500, which is this red line, is ineffective and won't do anything. You could have up to 4,000 and it'll do the exact same that it would at 35. This is obviously the max. This is 50. Why they don't line up, I don't know. But when you dose to 50, it'll go up here, and this is a 1 hour, I don't know, graph sort of, but it's a bar graph. Filtered boron shows how much you are filtering out, again, by minute. If you need to take boron out, use you filter it out, and use the iron columns to do that. This is how much you can filter out. When this gets to 0, you can't filter out anymore. You got to get AO to do it. Again, reactivity I'm not even going to go over because I don't think it's useful. And there we go. I think that's every switch, dial, gauge, whatever that we have. If I missed something, let me know. If I said something wrong, please let me know. I'm not going to go through the whole building, every little thing and whatever. I guess I could do that if someone else wanted me to another day. But this is the control room, inside out, every dial, switch by switch, gauge by gauge, and all that. Hopefully it's been helpful in how it all kind of contributes, more or less. And if you need more theory on it, conceptual stuff, look up my Nuclearis 101 video, and you should be able to get more information there. So, I'm Leonidas. Thank you for stopping by. Come join us on the Discord, and we'll see you again soon.